high, get loud, hands in the air, little notes going down. I need y'all to get hump, get loose, and hold on tight because we're tearing up the roof. It's a song by Discrepancy.
I don't know any of that song.
It's a great song.
I don't even know who Discrepancy is. The recorder's been on, by the way.
Oh, This is The Mud Peddlers, a podcast where two nerdy ceramic artists share the behind the scenes of their worlds of clay. We are your hosts, Lindsey M Dillon.
And I am Donte of Earth Nation. Sorry.
This week Donte is inhaling his boba, and I am sipping a Thai iced tea with 80% ice, 30% sugar.
I do the reverse. I do 80 sugar, 30 ice.
Yeah, I noticed that. I was like, that's funny.
Yeah, I've been doing pretty good on my diet. Chicken and rice kind of stuff, you know. But like, when I come here, I'm like, yeah, sugar.
I know. Yeah, I'm definitely today. This is my treat for the day.
Yeah.
But I want to get back into like proper cosplay shape at some point.
Right.
Also, I want to be able to like carry bags of clay without it being tiring.
I've decided that my body type is like, and Abel said this, and I just kind of agreed with her. She's like, you have strongman body. We're like, you're stout, you have relatively large shoulders. Mm-hmm. She's like, you're gonna have a bit of a belly. It's fine. She's like, but you're built for strength. You're not built for aesthetics. And I was like, damn. That's. But she's like, no, but I like it though, because you're stronger. You're not.
Damn, our partner is dishing out the truth.
And so I'm trying to like, well, I might as well just build my strength if she likes it so damn much.
Yeah.
You know? So I've been doing that. But now because I'm doing it, I'm craving like chicken all the time.
Oh yeah. That's sweet protein.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
I can't eat beef. I can't, but I have a problem with beef.
It's not good for the cholesterol, the beef.
Not only that, it's just, I have a thing with like, I didn't kill it.
Oh yeah.
So,
but you don't mind not killing the chicken?
Yeah, because the chicken, like what glory is there in killing a chicken? But like a cow might be able to kick my ass.
God, I want that on a mug. What glory is there in killing a chicken?
That's actually really good. I'm gonna make that.
Right, please.
I'm gonna make that
please
mug.
Do.
Yeah, I will.
Oh my god. All right, well, this week on the Mud Peddlers, we are not talking about our respective dietary changes. Yeah. We are talking about, I guess actually in a weird way it kind of relates.
In a weird way it relates.
Yeah, we're talking about how we navigate short, medium, and long-term goal planning.
Yeah, I don't really have any planning. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Well, okay. So I
do it or I don't do it.
I do know you have your notebook, but you do. Yeah. I know that you like. Okay, because for instance, like when we went to Nsika, well, first of all, we have our episodes where we talk about our goals for the year, so we do kind of have some long-term planning set up. Which one did you just try?
This one. I'm sorry, Lindsey. I drank a bit of my boba. It's the new one, and Lindsey saw me drink the coconut one, and I made a face.
Can I have a sip?
Yeah, of course you can.
Bro,
yeah,
yes.
Of course.
Oh.
I know, right? It's good. Take more if you want.
It feels like drinking like coconut scented sunscreen, but in the way in the way that's like good and not gross. Like how you want to eat animated food.
It feels like I was
This is the Mud Peddlers, not the Night Peddlers,
oh, my
Donte.
Bad. My bad.
Good God, I'm gonna have to beep all that out. People are gonna be all like, what's the mystery behind the beep?
I know Ryan Durbin listens to us, and every now and then he'll message me and be like, what did you say?
Yeah. Bless Ryan.
Hi, Ryan.
Thank you so much, Ryan. By the way, I have seen your messages and I will respond to them. I'm so sorry.
Damn.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
I respond to Ryan. He's on the important list.
Yeah, I mean, he's on my important list too, but which means that like just the guilt that I feel when I don't reply to him on time is just higher than the general.
You're just bad at messaging back. That's all. You're just bad at messaging back.
Yeah.
I message back in a couple days just because if I get rid of the message, then my brain goes, I don't have any responsibility to do more messages.
Yeah.
But you just build.
I just build. Speaking of which, dear listener, if you happen to get a message from me that you sent me a message saying, oh, nice job on whatever thing I posted, and I'm just now responding, I'm sorry.
That's just Lindsey. That's not anything to do with you.
Yeah, it's really not. It's
just Lindsey.
100% me.
Yeah. Oh, you were saying that somebody sent us a message correcting our thingy.
Oh,
yeah,
yes. Actually,
because we're not tax. I'm slowly becoming financially literate. I was talking to Lindsey about this before the podcast started, and like any information you give us is gold. Last year I figured out what like a certificate of deposit is.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, why is my money just sitting around now? Like, well, I don't understand. So...
Yeah. So, especially on things where it's like law, tax stuff related.
Yeah, we don't know.
We super appreciate feedback on this kind of stuff. So anyway, ANF Pottery says, "Hi, Lindsey. I'm a tax law specialist. I listen to your podcast, as I usually do, and some of the guidance provided isn't quite right. All income is reportable, regardless of if you received a form or not. It's either reported under a Schedule C, partnership return, corporation, or as hobby income. There are pretty extensive rules on what constitutes a hobby versus a business, and it's somewhat complex. Someone that has a full-time job and are not pursuing pottery as a business will likely fall under hobby. That income goes under other income on the front of the 1040. And the 1040 is a particular form.
I've never even had a 1040 in my hand.
Oh man, all right. There are pretty specific rules on meals, on when meals are allowable. If you aren't paying a studio fee but estimating it based on the value, I'm assuming you are doing a bartering transaction, remember the income that you would make instead of bartering is also included in income. It's usually a wash then. And then, regarding the phone, your phone would count only as a portion using personal versus business use. You'd have to figure out that percentage. And then donating to a nonprofit would likely be on your Schedule A if you were a sole proprietor, not a business expense." So I
didn't understand like three of those terms.
There's a couple things I'm like, okay, I'm gonna have to double check what exactly that means.
Yeah.
But we wanted to include that as a addition/correction to our last episode.
Just in case you understand it, because I don't.
Yeah. I definitely get, I think I get most of it.
Yeah, I understand the vibe of the corrections, and I'm totally with them, and I thank you for them.
Yeah.
But also, like this is part of the lingo that no one seems to understand, and that's the reason why everyone, including myself and you, are so confused on the rules of what can be and can't be included in, like, your taxes.
Yeah, there's definitely...
no one tells you.
There's definitely a language... sometimes I really feel like different fields have... Ooh, birds. Sorry. Different fields have different languages that you sort of have to learn that are specific to that field.
Yes.
Which can make learning new things kind of tricky sometimes.
Of course, yeah.
But anyway,
taxes are like an everybody thing in America.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, did you learn all these terms in high school when they taught you and educated you about your taxes that we all have to do sooner or later? No, but mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell.
Mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell!
Yeah. But no one taught us how to do taxes, school system, thanks.
Nope, we need a balance of both. We need to learn how to do our taxes and that the mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell.
Really wish the system would have taught me any of that instead of me learning it in my 30s.
Yep. That's why, if there are any youngins listening to this podcast, learn this as soon as you can, because that's the benefit of if you invest in things early.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Or invest early and smart. Anyway, point being, we appreciate ANF Pottery. Thank you so much for sending us this message, correcting us, because again, we are not legal professionals.
I'm going to look up some of those terms because I don't know what.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Now we will continue
with the actual podcast
with the rest of today's topic.
Yes.
So,
what was today's topic, Lindsey?
So today's topic, we are talking about how we navigate making short, medium, and long-term goals. Essentially how we handle things with multiple timelines.
That sounds so interesting. How do you do short ones?
Short ones, I feel like I'm actually easiest at short-term goals.
That's everybody though, yeah?
Sometimes. I think it depends on what kind of procrastinator you are, to be honest.
For sure.
For me, I have an easier, for instance, even though answering messages is something that you could consider a short-term thing because it's the thing comes in that day and it's immediate.
Yeah.
I will tend to prioritize other short-term goals, and I put answering messages in the sort of medium-term category, depending on essentially what is happening in my schedule. Because again, I kind of made the conscious decision several months ago that I was just you know what, I need a bit of a break from the mental fatigue of answering all of these messages.
Yeah.
So I'm just I'm going to prioritize other stuff right now. So it's I would say something answering messages can fluctuate between being a medium and short-term goal. But for me, the easiest short-term goal is I have to make a certain number of cups.
Okay.
Like, and I've been getting better in general over the years at like specifying what exactly I need to make. So for instance, it's like if I'm planning to do a convention and I need to know like, okay, I got to make essentially as many cups as I can. It's really easy for me to just go into the studio, go, okay, today I'm going to throw, 30 to 50 cups, right?
Okay.
It's really easy for me to just like sit down, pump those out because it doesn't really take a whole lot of decision making to do that. It's just like, this is something I got to do, and I just sit down and do it.
And you're experienced at, your muscle memory is like, I know what to do.
Yes.
It's not like a thing you have to figure out as you go. You know what to do.
Right, right. Especially because these are shapes that like, for a while I've pretty much had the main like teacup, I've got like two main like handleless teacup shapes. I've got like the more East Asian style, like cylinder teacup. I've got the more like kind of almost like whiskey glass looking teacup. And then I've got my mugs, my goblets, my steins, and then any other like specialty shapes that I might have for like the dragon egg mugs or the dune mugs that I make. Those are ones that are a little bit outside of that like regular thing.
Yeah.
But for the most part, the short-term goals of like, I gotta make some cups is really easy for me to do on like a day-to-day basis because it takes the least amount of
brain power.
Yeah, like,
and even like physical effort too for me at this point, and I imagine for you as well, where it's like a cup is, when you think about it, and I know I've said this 1,000 times, like a cup is just a cylinder, like a teacup that you've trimmed, and then a mug is just like a bigger version of a teacup with a handle on it. So it's, you just learn how to score and slip a handle and make a handle and you're good to go.
Yeah.
Or like a teapot is really just a lidded vessel with a spout. So once you learn how to make a lidded vessel, yeah. So once you have those things of experience underneath your belt, you're like, well, if I could do those two things, I could definitely do this thing.
Yeah. And the nice thing is too, is like when you have a set of, like when you sit down and you make that set of things, it kind of implements its own timeline.
Yes.
Because you're like, okay, I know that, depending on the weather, depending on the season and the humidity and all that, within a certain amount of time, you have to trim it. Then if you're adding a handle, you got to add the handle. And then for me, since I add the sprig mold stamps, it's like, okay, I got to add those.
Yeah.
I kind of like that there is an external timeline for those short-term goals that gets put on you when you like start something like that. And I feel like in general, like if I was going to say if there's an overarching thing that helps me meet both, or like the short, medium, and long-term goals, overall, that best thing is like external timelines. And those can be things that are, there's a convention coming up. Like that's a hard deadline, right?
That's benefiting you to do it and you ought to do it.
Yes. And like I have signed up for it.
Right.
Like it is a thing that is happening. It's not like I can go, I think I'll do SAC Anime next week. It's like, no, SAC Anime is that weekend and it's not going to move.
Yeah. I'm going to go regardless of whether I'm ready or not.
Right. Yeah. Right. But then for something like smaller, it could also be like, I have made a plan to do a shop update, and in that sense, it is flexible, but it's like, once I announce when that shop update's going to be, that creates another external deadline because it's something the public knows about. And it's not to say that like I'm not intrinsically motivated, because obviously I'm like a micro business owner. Of course I'm intrinsically motivated.
You have to to some degree.
Yeah. But it's just that having those outside things really helps.
Yeah, no, of course. And I don't really know if I have medium-term goals.
Yeah?
Yeah, I think I either have, like, generally speaking for me, I have long-term goals, and they're just things that I know are going to happen, and it's better for me to, like, be prepared for them to happen in the long term.
What are some examples of that you're thinking of? Like
SAC Anime is a really good one. Like, I know that's happening in, like, 4 or 5 months or whatever, right? And so, every time I sit down and I throw a batch of things, I go, I should probably make, like, 7 teacups today, because I'm going to have to silkscreen those.
Yeah.
And then I go, I should probably make sure I have enough blue. And then that takes like maybe an hour of my day to do those. And then another hour to trim them. And I might make them into content and XYZ and XYZ. But like, realistically, I just kind of do, and I know everyone's a little bit different on this, but there's people who let their house get kind of dirty and then they do like one big cleanup day.
Oh, yeah.
I don't do that. I just wake up and I do like 1 or 2, like I do the dishes and I take out the trash and I go, that's enough cleaning for today.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just do little things for long-term goals. Little things, if that makes sense. Like, if I need to vacuum the whole house, on Monday I'll vacuum the living room. And then on, like, Wednesday I'll vacuum the hallway,
and
then maybe a little bit of this room. So my long-term goals are really just little bite-sized things so I don't get overwhelmed.
Mm-hmm.
But my short-term goals, I'll put a massive amount of energy into them. Oh. And if I don't finish the short-term goals within a certain timeline, I'll weigh how beneficial they are towards me and mine. And then I'll go, maybe I don't need to do that after all.
Oh, okay. Like, so kind of like reassessing or reevaluating like what needs to be done.
Yeah, I would say the only long, maybe medium-term goal that I've had for about 4 months now is like redeveloping ancient copper.
Right.
Which I've told you I'm relatively close to.
Yeah.
But like if these next 2 tests don't come out, I will just release all the new glazes that I've accidentally made. Because I've been trying to, we just released Randy's Red, the original recipe for the public.
Oh yeah.
And that wasn't like...
Check it out on Dante's Glazy profile.
Yes, go to my Glazy profile.
How do people look you? Do they just go to like glazy.com and then search...
Earth Nation Ceramics.
Earth Nation Ceramics? Okay.
Yeah, and I think it's also, like, if you go to my Instagram profile, I have a link at the bottom of that, and that link leads you to, like, my YouTube, my Facebook, my this, my that, and Glazy is somewhere on there.
Okay, cool. Link in bio!
Link in bio, for sure, but, my OnlyFans is there. No, long story short, like I told you, and I know we're getting a bit off topic, Randy's Red, because of the mineral shortage or the discontinuation of certain minerals, has been reformulated so many times that the real recipe... didn't even appear on Glazy. Like, I looked it up, it just doesn't exist.
Yeah.
And I was talking to Tony, the person who made Digital Fire, and I looked on his website, and he has the original recipe, and then we kind of compared recipes, and they're the same. And I was like, oh crap, I'm old enough to have the original recipe.
Oh man.
That's happy and sad times at the same time. The problem is you need Kona feldspar and Guernsey borate to make them, so people have reformulated them, but they're nowhere near their old glory.
Right.
So I put the original recipe on there, I made the original recipe because I have those minerals, and then I put test styles on there so that it wouldn't be lost to history. So if you want to see those, please check them out. That being said, that was a short-term goal of mine that I was like, I'm pretty sure I have the original recipe to Randy's Red. I could probably remake it real quick.
Yeah.
Fire it, put it on the... And that was like low-key community service.
Oh, okay, yeah.
That was like, people should have this. It's a piece of history for glaze makers. But the ancient copper thing is like, if I don't figure it out in the next couple of months, I'm going to drop it.
Yeah.
I'm just going to be like, you win. You win. You got me. It's been 4 months. It's not important enough of a goal for me to put this amount of effort into it.
Yeah.
For me to. That being said, I'm very close. But I think that's the only medium-term goal I have. But the long-term one is like everybody's like losing weight.
Oh, yeah. I'm thinking more specifically like...
pottery.
like ceramics-related long-term goals.
Ooh,
like
I have... I'd say I'm way better at doing short-term goals. And that's not because they're quick and easy, but it's because they're big things that like I can do quick and easy. Like if I want to make a new silk screen, I go to my computer and I go to like the program that helps me edit like stuff together, and then it takes me like an hour and I'm playing video games in the background.
Yeah.
And then by the time I've done like a session of video games, because my mom's watching the baby and Abel's playing her video games, 5-6 hours later, I'm like, I've made 4 new silk screens. I'll send this out to my...
Yeah.
But I feel like that's a thing that people would sit down and concentrate on.
Yes.
Usually, but I'm just kind of like, well, I'm just going to do little bits of it until it's done.
Yeah.
And that's usually how I do stuff, so I don't get overwhelmed.
That's fair.
Usually.
I am definitely the opposite of that. Like, I do best, first of all, like, not that I always stick to this, but, like, my method for navigating particularly, like, medium-term goals, because I think, like, I feel like for my long-term goals... I feel like I make enough progress in small bits throughout the year to, like, kind of start getting to those points.
Yeah.
But the hardest thing that I feel like I have is, like, the medium-term goals where it's, like, for instance, with... Well, I mean, now this is technically a long-term goal because the whole, like, slip casting thing.
Yeah. Long-term, yeah.
Oh, my God.
I want to learn how, but, like, I'm just so... I don't know.
Yeah. It's a whole ass thing.
It is a whole thing.
Yeah. But, like, I think I do best working in, like, chunks of time.
Yes.
But I have to sort of create lists and schedules for myself to figure out when those things are going to be and when I'm going to do those. Because normally, again, if it's, like, short-term goals, it's really easy for me to just, like, okay, cool, I'm going to sit down and bust out 30 mugs. And then the next day I'm going to trim. And the next day I'm going to add, this, and this. But then... Like, again, sometimes I need to set aside time to, like, post to Patreon. Yeah. And so, for me, I do best if I set up the schedule for myself so that when I'm in the moment, I don't have to think and remember what I'm supposed to do. I can just go to the list. So my main tool for particularly like those medium-term goals that may not, you know, that they have sort of like a soft timeline of when they should be done, but they aren't like, I need to put out this fire right now, like the short-term goal, is like having a very, very detailed like to-do list every day, or a very detailed like Google Calendar schedule of like, I have my calendar marked out of like generally what each day should be, and then also like when I'm gonna edit the Mud Peddlers, when I'm gonna edit the Night Peddlers, when I'm gonna post to Patreon, when I'm gonna do a live video. And again, I don't always meet those things, but because sometimes putting out the fires, the short-term fires, like ends up taking precedent, or like something else will come up. But like if I have the structure set up to make those decisions, then I don't spend the mental energy in the moment trying to figure out what I need to do, which is like what caused the problem at SAC Anime, just this last one in January, where I spent so much time putting out the small fires, like of going, oh God, I gotta make a bunch of inventory. I'm gonna pump this out. I'm gonna do all the things, but I didn't zoom out enough to look at the timeline of how much time I actually had. And so I ended up with like a bunch of designs that weren't necessarily the best sellers, but were part of what I wanted to be, like a part of my overall inventory. But then I ran out of time to make the other designs that I know work well. So anyway, so that I guess if that's the, like, I need the overall structure and then chunking out bits of time. Like when I clean the house, not that this is ceramics related, but I set aside like 5 hours
to clean the house?
To clean the house, yeah.
Dang.
But that's like, but that's partially because I enjoy a leisurely house cleaning experience. Like when I'm cleaning the house, I'm not like, all right, let's get this done. I'm like, I'm going to put in a podcast. I'm just going to clean.
You set the mood.
Yeah, it's like a relaxing sort of thing for me.
I put on some YouTube in the background, and then I'm like, let me vacuum for 20 minutes. And then I'm like, good, now the living room is vacuumed.
Yeah.
Done.
Yeah.
Granted, I'm more of a big cleaner where I'm like, you go into a room and your bed is probably the majority of the room. So I'm like, okay, if I clean under the bed, make the bed, that's 50% of the room.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And so if I clean around that, that's the other 50%. So if I at least wake up in the morning and make the bed for the family, then I go, okay, well, I've cleaned like most of this room.
Yes.
Other than vacuuming, sweeping, and putting things where they go, essentially, which is, if you just put things where they belong in your room and like make your bed, it is like 80% of the battle.
It's so true.
It really is.
It's so true.
Like when you take your clothes off and you decide whether you're going to wear them the next day, because it might be a t-shirt you barely wore, or if it's dirty. If you just put it in a place, fold it where you know you're going to find it to wear it the next day, or if you put it in the hamper. And I know I make it sound easy because a lot of people's brains aren't this way, but I'm talking about people with normal brains, right? That like,
I think normalized is maybe the term, because it's not necessarily that.
I just always get a message of someone who's like, it's not that simple, my brain has ADHD. Okay, I'm talking to those of you who don't have mental disabilities.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Neurodivergent.
The nice term is neurodivergent, but I feel like you know what I'm talking about, right?
I mean, it is just neurodivergence.
Yeah, it is, but like, then there's someone who's like myself, like, I'm autistic and I have no problem with those things. I'm not going to include every single demographic of neurodivergency.
Oh, yes.
I'm not doing that, right?
Yeah, okay.
I'm talking to those of you who can and will and are willing and don't have mental issues to block this thing that I'm saying that's very easy to do.
Yeah.
Make your bed, put where it goes, and that's the majority of cleaning.
What do you feel like the ceramics version of that is? Like,
oh, when you're at your wheel?
Yeah, either at the wheel or just like in the studio in general. Like, what's the equivalent of like making your bed and cleaning and like...
Clean your table when you're done, so that the next time you go to your workbench or your table, because I have one, like a wooden table, then it's clean, right? Secondly, when you're at your wheel and you are using your stuff, your pin tool, your wire, your wooden knife, your rib, and your sponge have a specific place they go in. If it's not the bucket, please don't put all your tools in the bucket. Don't put all them things jostling in the bucket. You'll poke or cut yourself sooner or later. Right? I have a sponge to my right because I'm right-handed when I throw, and then my left hand is for like the water application.
Yeah.
So I put I have one of those big yellow painter sponges.
Oh, yeah.
I put my small mud tool sponge, shout out mud tools. I put my pin tool, I stick it into the sponge so it doesn't stab anybody.
Yeah.
And then I put my wooden knife and I put my wire tool draped over that sponge, and they're just there all the time unless I'm using them. And when I'm not using them, they go right back there.
Yeah.
And then my stays clean.
Yeah.
It's real. I swear to you, I'm not concerned with... I know it's turned to a cleaning podcast. I'm not...
Lindsey and Donte, clean. What sparks joy?
I am not as concerned with having a sterile environment as I am with having an organized environment.
Yes.
And that really helps with the way my brain works personally. Is if things are organized, they're easier to clean. I don't have to pick up my shoes to clean underneath them on the floor because I put my shoes at the entryway on the floor. You know, like, if the shoes are just where they go in the first place.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
no, completely.
I don't have to pick up the shirts off the ground in order to clean the floor, vacuum it, which takes 5 minutes realistically. Because the shirt was in the dirty laundry basket where it belongs because it was dirty in the first place. It just makes my life easier to just put things where they go when they need to go there.
Yeah, yeah. I hear that. If it's no, I mean honestly, I'm with you there on those things. Like again, like I think. Yeah, I mean, it's funny because it's like, so I normally like leave the studio without cleaning. Yeah. But that's because I like starting my day out by cleaning because it kind of gets me into a work mode.
It works for you.
Yeah.
It's your cardio before working out. Get the blood flow going. I get it. I totally get it.
Yeah. All right, well, okay, so for things like I remember for Insika, one of the goals that you had was, and this is what, the one in Ohio, one of the goals that you had for that was to make connections to get more like sponsorships and stuff like that. Like work more with specific companies, right? So like...
Yeah, I remember I was on the plane and I was like...
Yeah. You were...
I was in my head.
Yeah.
I was telling Lindsay, we gotta make this shit worth it.
Yeah.
I did not spend 2 G's just to frolic in the pottery field. I did not spend this amount of money to have a little vacation. This needs to have product.
Yeah.
This seat needs to bear fruit. Otherwise, we'll be not doing this again. I was telling Abel about that, and she was like, you were deep in the weeds.
Yeah. I mean, it's good. It's a good weed field to be in.
I love weed fields.
Yeah.
Smokable?
Yeah.
No?
I guess.
Hair on the field?
Hair on the field? What's that?
Play ball?
Okay.
I don't know.
All right. Anyway.
I feel like there was a lot of sayings there.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know any of the sayings correctly.
I don't know either. Oh my god. So like when, for things like growing your business, how do you go about getting the kind of growth that you want?
I will say on a personal level, I'm far less concerned with growing my business than I am about fostering and supporting my community. Mm-hmm. And I will say one goes with the other because if you foster and support a community and give them a certain amount of knowledge, they often give you enough accolades or enough like street credit or pottery credit, whatever you call it, to like have money coming your way anyway. I'll say that, right, firstly. But like, I'm like, and I know we talk about John a lot, but John the Potter is a good businessman, right? He like does pottery and he connects it to business with his business degree. He understands how money works. He's relatively financially literate. I'm not financially literate enough to do what he does, right? He has like plans.
Yeah.
I don't. I see that Randy's Red Recipe has not been on the market on Glazy for 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
And then I go, that's a crime, right? That needs to be there. So I go out, I get the materials, I find the rare materials, I make it myself. And then I put it up there because I think the community needs a bit of history to not be lost in time. It doesn't need to be time lost. And so so I just did it. It wasn't like, this is good for my business. For me, it was just like, it ought to be done. So I did it. Right?
Yeah.
Same thing with my Discord. Same thing with trying to redevelop ancient copper. My goals are not really revolving around business as much as they are revolving around my community. For example, I have a discount code with Clayscapes. It's Earth10 if you buy any of their powdered glazes. I don't get money from that. I'm not really concerned with the amount of money they give me from that. It'd be nice, but I'm much more concerned about people who want to start making glazes, buying a large amount of powdered glazes for relatively cheap. It's the price of like 2 pints of glaze. You get 5 pounds of it. And then slowly kind of indoctrinating them into learning the glaze chemistry.
Yeah.
Right? I'm more concerned with the individual skill level I'm more concerned with the individual skill level on like a bottom level. So that people can have a foundation to build from the pottery community.
But you did go into Insika going, I gotta make some business connections.
Yes, yeah, but that's only because in the middle, I was in my own head. That's only because in the middle of the flight, I was like, I can't do this for nothing. Like I can't.
Was it like the financial cost that made that difference for you? Yeah, that makes sense.
You know what it feels like? It feels like, and this is something that a lot of people disagree with me on. I am a Grinch when it comes to this.
Ooh.
I promise you I am. When people go on vacation only to do the same shit they were doing at home, but in a hotel with more beautiful scenery. Like when people go to Hawaii just to watch TV from a nice hotel room. And I'm like, I don't do that. I can't do that. Mm-hmm. You know, they go snorkeling once a day and then they go back to their hotel room and like chill because they're tired. And I'm like, I could do that at home. So like when I go
minus
somewhere.
the snorkeling.
Right. So, which I don't even like. So I don't even like swimming. I can't swim. Let me write. That was a.
Wait, you really can't swim?
I'm number one. I'm too heavy to swim. Number two, I'm part of the stereotype.
Oh my god, I forgot about that.
I'm part of the stereotype of people who don't know how to swim.
Oh, that's funny.
Because low class communities don't have pools.
Right.
And then, like, so generationally, like, no one ever taught me how to swim. Oh. So now I would have to take a swim class.
Yeah.
And even when I take a swim class, they teach you how to like professionally swim. I took one, and they were just like, firstly, you're really heavy. It's not a lot of it's not fat.
Yeah.
Secondly, you don't even know how to float, and I was like, no. And so they were like, I don't know what to do with you.
Yeah.
Most people know how to swim who take pottery classes. I'm sorry, swimming classes. What was I talking about?
You, like, the whole parallel of, like, okay, if I could do, vacations.
Yeah, okay.
If I could do the thing at home, like,
Yes.
I'm not going to go pay to do it somewhere else.
Agree. Yeah, no, that's exactly it. If I can do the thing at home in the relative comfort of what I've built for my own environment with my own resources, then, like, I'm not going to pay to go do the same exact thing somewhere else unless it benefits me when I come back home to a certain extent or my community. And that's not really my look on it for a business venture. Granted, it does matter.
Yeah.
Right? But, like, I'm not going to Nsika to, like, hang out. I'm going to, like, 20% of it's hanging out and the rest of it's, like, making connections, meeting new people who could teach me new skills, getting content for the videos, making more connections with Amico and Clayscapes so that I can have glazes to bring you content, so that I can have discount codes, so that you can buy pottery glazes, so you can be more comfortable with making your own glazes. So, like, it rolls, you know?
Yeah.
I'm not going there like, I'm about to make some money.
Yeah.
That comes along with the territory, but that's not the prime directive.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting. I feel like in general, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but, like, it seems like...
You're wrong!
Oh, good.
I'm sorry, that's unfair.
I'm so sorry.
You're actually usually right.
Aw, thank you.
Yeah.
Not always. I feel like in general, you have fewer issues making time investments on things, but more hesitancy in doing monetary investments.
Yeah.
And I feel like I have a harder time doing time investments, but a bit of an easier time doing monetary investments.
That's because I'm a scared money person.
Well, I would actually, so for me, it comes back to money too. Because for me, my biggest thing is, like, for instance, and this kind of comes back to, like, how I handle, like, medium and long-term goals, is, like, because I've been doing this full-time for, 3 years or something like that, it's harder for me, like, how do I say? I have a formula for how to make money, right? Like, I know pretty much the designs that sell. I have conventions that I go to. I know how to do online updates. I have a lot of the infrastructure set up so that if I make the cups, I make money. But what I have a harder time with is time investments that basically pull away from the timeline that I have set up that I know directly leads to money, which is part of the reason why the whole slip casting thing has been such a start and stop adventure. Like, I have done a few experiments with it, but I haven't, like for instance, Birdie Tam has been doing this. It's been really fun watching her do this whole, like, she's been researching essentially a new way to do a particular design. And she even, like, did a post about it, talking about how it's challenging when you're doing a research project that you know is gonna, or that you're pretty sure is gonna bring in more money later, but in the meantime, you have to take a hit in your income if you're doing something like this full time.
It's an investment.
Right, it's an investment.
You assume the thing you're doing now will yield you more results later on.
Right.
Versus if you just keep doing the same thing forever.
Yes. But I have a lot of hesitancy around, like, ooh, is this really going to make me money? Like, what are the systems that I have in, like, for instance, when I think about something like slip casting, I think, okay, even if I learn how to do this, I'm going to have to, essentially it's going to take a monetary investment, not just the time investment to learn how to do this particular skill, but also to like buy the drill, buy the like slip casting like tray catcher with the bars across, like that system takes a lot of time, essentially time investment. And I guess the biggest thing that I struggle with as I make medium and long-term goals is going, is this thing that I want to set aside time to do actually going to be worth my time? Because for instance, like one of the things that's tricky about the Mud Peddlers is that even though it is incredibly rewarding in terms of the community aspect of it, and I think like you already had like the social clout with your YouTube channel, but like I'm pretty sure the only reason a lot of people know about me is like because of the Mud Peddlers. Like people, I don't think people at NSECA in Sacramento would have been coming up to us being like, are you Lindsey M Dillon? Like, I don't think that would be happening without the Mud Peddlers. So it's like, it's had a lot of soft benefits, but it's also kind of hard being like, ooh, like unless I start trying to reach out and get more sponsorships for the Mud Peddlers, it's, you know, we're 3.5 years in, and there's not a lot of monetary benefits coming from that. Now, like, cause I think, I don't know, I mean, maybe the folks on Patreon, you know, like are contributing to Patreon largely because of the Mud Peddlers. I'm not sure. If you're a patron, let me know, because I would love more data to help me make decisions. But like in general, that's the biggest thing that I do is like I want as much data to show me that this thing that I want to make a time investment in is actually going to be worth it, because time is limited and I'm only going to keep getting older. And like you know, there's this sense, I feel like there was a sense again when I was younger that I was like in my 20s and such, I'm like, I have a lot of time. I'm in my 20s. I'm figuring all this stuff out. It's okay that I'm poor right now because there's time for me to figure this out. And it's like, as I'm getting into my 30s and I'm like, ooh, it's a lot harder to think that like, yeah, I'm going to learn this thing that's going to take me a year to get really good at.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know. I mean, again, I recognize that can also be problematic because I can set up so many barriers in front of myself that I never actually make any progress moving forward because I want information that I can't have.
Well, you're also right in the middle of those two demographics of people who are like 60 who are like, you're 30, you have plenty of time.
Oh, yeah.
And then the, you know, like 21-year-olds who are like, I'm young and I'm gonna live forever.
Yeah.
So I understand the push and pull of your mentality when you talk about like, well, I'm getting there versus like, no, I have time. I completely understand that. There's people listening to us right now who are like, 30.
Yeah, oh no, I'm sure. And
then there's also like some 25-year-old who's like, I need to get on my shit.
Yeah, no, for real. I mean, I'm sure, because it's like, I mean, I think also so much of it is about like risk tolerance. How do I say it? Like, I'm not sure if this is a fair comparison. So again, like, correct me if you feel like this is not an adequate situation.
I'm listening to you, yeah.
But it's like, because you have had your solid 9-to-5 job up until very, very recently,
yes,
there was less risk in you taking time to develop a glaze for 4 months.
100%. And I did that on purpose. When I started doing pottery and getting a little bit more popular on YouTube, I had a choice to make where I was like, I could just quit and keep doing pottery. And then I thought about it and I was like, it's not a sure bet. So I'm not going to quit my job. And now that like I have a job and Patreon and YouTube.
Yeah.
I essentially have I have original net and then I have 2 safety nets underneath that.
Yeah.
Then I quit my regular 9-to-5 job and got a different one in pottery that pays more.
Yeah.
So you're right. Like the reason I was able to do the YouTube thing and the job thing, and one was a safety net for the other.
Yeah.
And now they've just switched.
Right.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah. Well, I think also in general too, you, as evidenced by us starting this podcast, you, I think in general, have a very like, I want to do this thing, I'm going to go do it.
Yes.
And for me, I tend to go, I want to do this thing, okay, let me collect as much like data and information as I can before I do this thing. Like I try and anticipate like what are the problems going to be? I think in some ways that's good because I do think it does help me prevent issues that could come up.
It's necessary to a degree,
Yeah. But I also know that on the flip side, it can lead to inaction because, you know.
Hesitation kills, for sure. But, like, you definitely want to research as much as you can to make sure the iron is as hot as it can be before you strike. I just realize when the iron's hot, and I go, I'm gonna strike that now.
Yeah.
It's hot right now.
We're gonna figure it out. We're gonna figure it out live.
Yeah, and I'm gonna put out any fires around it that don't need to be there as I strike the iron. You know, and that's kind of more my modality is just like. Is like, do I need to do this thing? No. Would it be a benefit to me if I did it and my community? Yes. Therefore, I'm going to do it. But it's going back to the whole is the juice worth the squeeze conversation.
Yeah.
Where it's like, well, is the juice worth the squeeze? Like, if I do this thing, will anyone give a shit? You know, would any of my community benefit from this? Would it make them feel better? Would it make them feel more comfortable? Would it benefit me even to a smaller degree if it benefits them to a larger degree? And if the answers are no across the board, then I simply don't do it, essentially.
Yeah.
But as far as little things, here's a good example with the slip casting thing.
Yeah.
It's a long-term goal for me, but it's only because it's kind of a forethought, right? Or it's like in the back of my mind.
Oh, yeah.
I want to do slip casting, but I only want to do slip casting because some of my more complicated things are labor intensive. Much like yourself with your dragon mugs. And my dragon mugs as well. They take too long for me to do.
Yeah.
And yours definitely take a very long time to do.
So long.
So to minimize the cost, probably lower the price of the actual item, and to learn a new skill would be beneficial towards not only my pocketbook, but also to how many things I could sell that would make my community and me more comfortable and get more money into my pockets. It's a yes across the board, right? So I have 2 or 3 people in my circle who know how to slip cast, and I've just been up their butts asking them questions. Right?
Well, now that the shortage of pottery plaster seems to be at least alleviating. Like, I literally, on the way here, dear listener, on the way here, I got a call from Alpha being like, we finally got your pottery plaster in. Like, I'm like, yeah!
I don't trust it.
You don't trust it?
No, and I think it's just because I make glazes, so what often happens, much like with the Randy's Red situation, is that, by the way, if any of you know where Randy's Red is originally from, please tell me. If you know the person that developed it, like the Randy that made it, please tell me because I cannot find the source.
Yeah, actually, because I was curious, like, how you know that the recipe that you and, who's the person?
Tony Hansen. He's the person who made Digital Fire.
Yeah.
But, like, I'm going to ask him, but because I haven't yet.
Yeah, because, like, how do you guys know that that's the original recipe?
Well, also what often happens is that, like, I'll name my glazes, like, Gara's Red. And so people will assume since glazes are usually named after the person who made them, that, like, there must be some dude out there named Gara.
Who's Angie?
Who's Angie?
Yeah. Right. They search it into Google. Why are there a bunch of
Digimon glazes?
Yeah.
And so I really want to know. I want to ask Tony, like, who... I'm sorry I'm slinging your name around, Tony Hansen. I deeply apologize. But I also want to give you credit for helping me so much on the side. Because, like...
No, honestly, like, Digital Fire is it's the Library of Alexandria for anyone interested in glaze chemistry.
It's crazy. I was telling him on Instagram the other day, I was like, hey, I didn't know you were a real person. I thought that, like, there was a team of people who made this thing, but really it's just, like, one guy with a website or a domain. And I 100% thought, ever since I was, like, 22, I thought there was a team of people who made this and it was a resource for potters. It's just one person like myself who's just spewing information into the world.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm kind of still awestruck to even be talking to him in the first place.
Yeah.
But I really want to know, like, the person who made Randy's Red, is it a guy or a girl named Randy? Is it a person named Randy? Or, like, did this person do what I do and they just named it Randy's Red after their buddy who helped them develop the glaze?
Yeah.
And in honor of them, they wanted to, like...
Hashtag who's Randy?
Yeah, hashtag who's Randy right now.
Oh,
man. And I forgot what we were talking about.
Yeah. Well, okay, bringing it back to, in general.
Right.
Like, I mean, I think we're at about episode time anyway, because we've been talking for, I don't know, half hour, 40 minutes or so. But, like, bringing it back to, in general, like, how we navigate short, medium, and long-term goals. I feel like there's a lot that goes into that. And are there any, like, other last thoughts that you kind of have around that, or?
No, I think everyone has a different mode of how they go through their short, medium, long-term goals that works for them and their own brain chemistry. And granted, there's not an overall blanket statement I can use for every individual. You know,
what would you say it would be for yours? Like, if you were to say, how do you handle short term? How do you handle medium term? How do you handle long term?
Or short-term goals are short-term goals for me are things that are beneficial for me that I can do immediately. Things like making the bed clean that don't take much effort, granted with brain issues or anything like that, right? But like if I'm making the bed or cleaning my room or cleaning my house, those are short-term goals that I know ought to be done for the cleanliness and just the sanctity of my own mind, realistically. Because when I look around my house and things are out of place, it really jumbles my head. I like things in order.
Yeah.
Right? But like medium-term goals are usually things that, and the short-term goals, I can just do them.
Yeah.
The medium-term goals things, the way I approach them are like, should I do it? Probably. Do I want to do it? No, not really. Would it be easy to do it? It would probably take like a couple weeks of just like what I call research. But when people call it research, they mean like looking it up on YouTube. And those are things that I don't care about that much, to be honest.
Oh.
Medium-term goals are things that I'm like, I could do that so easily that I don't want to do it now. Long-term goals are things that would be massively beneficial for me, that I would have to put little bits of effort in almost every day in order to get them. Like, for example, if I wanted abs more than I have now, because I have I have them, but I'm also a little chunky. I'm a doughboy for sure. I would have to get my ab roller and do like 50 of those every other day and eat under calorie. Granted, I have a certain amount of genetics and whatever things in the way. For like 2 months straight. And that's like a long-term goal.
Okay.
But like, how bad do I want abs? You know? How bad do I want more abs than I have now? Yeah. And that's really the juice worth the squeeze kind of conversation we had earlier.
Yeah.
But like that's a long-term goal that a lot of people would want or have. But I do mine in little bits of effort to get there sooner or later.
Yeah.
One step until I get to a mile.
Oh, okay.
But like short-term goals are like, I could take a step. And
Yeah. I think in general, for me, like I handle short-term goals the easiest because I think about those in terms of like quick things that help with the overall maintenance of the studio and of my like business practice and studio practice.
Yeah.
Like I need to clean the kiln shelves, or I need to like keep up with a particular production goal. Like I need to throw 50 cups today or whatever. And I think for me, the short-term goals require the least amount of mental effort.
Yes.
Because they take a short enough amount of time that it doesn't heavily impact like the shape of my day or of my week.
It's like the mental strain that it takes is really the barometer for me.
Yeah. Medium-term goals are things that take enough effort that they are going to significantly impact my like day-to-day. So for instance, if I wanted to, actually, you know what? Ceramicon is a great example of this because when we did Ceramicon, essentially after SAC Anime that particular year, I knew that I needed to get in the video for that within a certain amount of time, and I wanted it to be a certain quality. So I essentially took 2 weeks of basically only working on Ceramicon. Like I woke up, worked on Ceramicon basically all day, and I didn't go into the studio and do other stuff. But I've learned that like obviously I can't do that all the time with certain things, especially when there are other timelines that have to be taken into account. Like I can't take 2 weeks to work on one particular project when I have SAC Anime in like a couple months or something like that.
Yeah.
Right? So what I end up doing to navigate those goals is essentially I try and set up a schedule as best as I can. And I have to basically go, okay, I'm spending these amount of hours on this day to do this thing, this amount of hours on this day to do this thing. And even though I don't always stick to that schedule, seeing it written out helps me mentally visualize the multiple timelines so that I can, as to best of my abilities, hit the beats that I need to get things done in a certain way.
Yeah.
And I'd say like long-term goals are things that I more think about in terms of like, what's this year gonna look like? Or what are the next couple years gonna look like?
Yeah.
And those I am a lot more structurally relaxed with.
Really?
Like, yeah, kind of like with the short-term goals. But like I'd say medium-term goals require the most amount of effort for me because it's essentially like the medium goals both help me meet my short-term goals and my long-term goals because the structure that I set up to meet those medium-term goals also helps me meet those other ones. It's about like setting up the Google Calendar. It's about utilizing my bullet journal. It's about utilizing my Habitica app. Like I have a couple different things that help me put together the multiple timelines. And it's also actually taking the time to take that step back, because it's really easy to spend weeks on end just nose to the grindstone in the studio, putting out cup after cup after cup after cup. But it's
mentally exhausting to a degree.
Well, no, I would say that's easy.
The cup part?
Yeah, the cup part is easy for me.
If I make 100 cups, by the time I get to 70, I'm like, God, I hate this.
Oh my God, no. For me, that's easy.
Really?
Because it's muscle memory. It doesn't take decision making. For me, I have the hardest time, and it benefits me the most, but I have the hardest time doing it. Is like, until it becomes a habit. Like this year, I'd say in general, I've been a lot better at like making it a habit.
Yeah.
But like actually taking the time to like step back and go, okay, what's the big picture? What are the multiple things that I need to balance my time with? And how do I set up my schedule so that I'm meeting each of those goals? And so that takes the most amount of effort, because it takes the planning, it takes the critical thinking skills, it takes the balancing different priorities, all of those kind of things. But the long-term goals I'm more relaxed with, because they usually don't have like a super firm timeline.
Yeah.
Unless it's something like SAC anime, because obviously that's like, we know
it's like you
like
gotta
a year
do that,
out.
Yeah.
It's
too beneficial to not do that.
Right. But for me, long-term goals would constitute things like my idea for like writing a book, or like going to grad school, or like some of these other things that they're kind of out there, they're on my radar, but it's only when I set aside time to like integrate them into my schedule that they kind of just become like a thing that I do.
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes sense. But like, I guess like Patreon would be a good example of that. Because it's like, there was the ultimate goal of like setting up a Patreon.
Yes.
But then it's the matter of maintenance. Like, okay, when am I going to schedule, like when I'm going to post, when I'm going to do the night Peddlers, like those kind of things. But in general, I'd say the biggest thing that helps me meet all of those goals is an external timeline. And that can be an external timeline that I create in terms of like, I'm going to do a shop update on this day.
Right.
Or it can be properly external, where it's like, SAC anime's happening whether I want it to that weekend or not.
Yeah, for me that's a long-term goal, because it's like, I always think of just backup plans. It's like Batman's entire superpower.
Yes.
Other than like being
plans on plans.
Right, just plans on plans. It's other than being just like good at martial arts. His whole superpower is like being rich and then having the resources from being rich to basically facilitate backup plans on backup plans on backup plans.
He's got a lot of
his whole power.
He's got a lot of sheets of toilet paper between the and the fan.
Yes. Yes.
Oh man.
I will say for me, one of the biggest variables to kind of cap this off of whether I'm going to do something, regardless of whether it's a long-term or a medium-term plan, because short-term is just you're done with it.
Yeah.
Is how beneficial it is not only for my community, but for me at a later time. For example, I've been really up on my blogs. I've been doing like a blog every 3 weeks at least. Because I know there's at least, because I get the analytics, there's at least 100 of you that are going to earthnationceramics.com and looking at the blog to see what I'm developing and how I'm doing it and some of the notes.
Nice. Hell yeah. Sorry, that was, you heard a weird sound in the background. That was me trying to snap.
No, you're good. And that really helps bolster my confidence to make more blogs. Because I used to be like, no one's really watching them. It's like 25 people. And it's a lot of people who are already in, or who are starting to get into glazes and making glazes and glaze chemistry, and just want to know those little tidbits of information from you to make their glazes even better and get into the field, right? But the fact that Squarespace basically said like, hey, 100 people read your blog yesterday, I was like,
that's great, dude. Hell yeah.
Honestly,
dude, data is the best thing for decision making, man. I'm telling you.
It really helps. But
like vibes are good too, because you gotta figure out, do I actually want to do this thing?
Yeah, is the juice with the squeeze, and do I even like that kind of juice? But one of the biggest things for me, other than that, is that if it helps me later on, in like if it continues to give me basically compounding interest, like it's good for me and the community to do it because I needed to learn it and I want to share that information with other people. But also I need to look back on these quote unquote notes of my discoveries with my glazes stuff that it's not really discovery. I have a trouble with calling them discoveries because I'm sure someone else already knows this info.
Yeah, I hear it.
But I'm discovering it, and I hope that people look at my discoveries and they discover it as well. Mm-hmm. You know, so the word discoveries isn't accurate, but you know what I mean.
I know what you mean.
Yeah. But I get to look back on those things later on when I'm developing other stuff, and that's really important to me. Is because not only does it help me and foster my community, but it also helps like future Donte when he's making other stuff.
Yeah, right? Yeah. Like you can see that when you're in the midst of building it, you're like, I know that I'm building a scaffold right now that I'm going to stand on later.
Right, exactly. But as far as like later on, if I need to build another scaffold, I'm like, how did I build that?
Yeah.
If I can just look back on my own blog and my own notes. And that's why I take so many pictures that I don't release to the public.
Yeah.
Is because I like to have all my glaze combinations for glazes that I'm honestly no longer interested in.
To be honest, I feel like that's a really good like note in general is like documentation.
100%.
Maybe we could do an episode on that actually.
You need to, I would have a lot of input on that. Yeah. You need to have documentation and notes.
Let's do it. If y'all are interested in an episode on documentation, let us know.
Tag us on the gram?
On the gram, yeah. And TikTok. I'm kind of starting to pay a little more attention to TikTok now.
Yeah, TikTok.
Although it may be going away, so who knows?
Yeah.
But yeah, well, let us know, dear listener, if there are things that you do to navigate, or rather what specifically you do to navigate your short, medium, and long-term goals. Let us know. Tag us on the social media. And, you know, if you haven't, if you enjoy this episode, leave us a little review. I never actually included that in the outro of our new outro, but yeah.
We love reviews.
Reviews are good. Yeah, reviews are great.
What honestly happens if we get enough reviews and we get enough good ratings, sponsors contact us.
Yeah.
And then we get to up the quality of not only our lives but the podcast.
Yeah, and it's it's good.
I'm waiting for like Clayscapes or Amico to be like, hey.
Hey.
What you doing over there?
Yeah. gonna Joey this shit. How you doing?
Come over here, let me talk to you for a little bit. And then you go, no, because they never want to talk to you.
Anyway, sponsor us. No. Bye.
Bye.
And that's it for today. Thank you so much for joining us for this episode of the Mud Peddlers. We would love to hear from you, so if you want to share your thoughts about the episodes or just see what Donte and I are working on in our studios, come say hi. You can find links to my social media at lindseymdillon.com. That's LINDSEY, M as in monster, DILLON.com.
And you can visit my pottery shop or see what I'm working on at earthnationceramics.com. And you can find me all over social media at Earth Nation Ceramics. It's spelled exactly how you think it's spelled.
And if you want to support the show, hear some bonus episodes, and see some behind the scenes of my work, you can support me and the show at patreon.com/Lindsey M Dillon. Thank you so much for listening, and we will see you next time.